It was crazy.
Within 2 months, you opened the restaurant?
Did.
Wow.
It was a plug and play. We were broke. We didn't even hire employees when we opened Clean Eatz.
You were doing it all yourself?
That's genius, right?
I leap a lot.
Are you a leader navigating burnout, doubt, or growth? Welcome to the Ripple Effect Leadership Podcast, where intentional leadership creates lasting impact. Hi, I'm Jen Brown with my co-host Hugo Rodriguez, and we're diving into real leadership stories and practical insights to help you lead with clarity, courage, and connection. Because we believe great leadership creates positive ripples at work and in life. Hello to our listeners and viewers. I'm Jen Brown, a former diplomat and the founder and leadership coach with Journey of Grace Coaching. I'm joined today by my co-host, Hugo Rodriguez.
Thank you, Jen. Like Jen, I'm a retired diplomat with 25 years of service working in the State Department, currently a professor of practice in leadership and an executive coach as well. Jen, we have a guest today. Tell us who we're going to be talking to.
We do. I am super excited to welcome our guest, Yvonne Varady, here today. Yvonne is co-founder of Clean Eatz, based in Wilmington, but not isolated to Wilmington. And besides that, she is a woman of many hidden talents, which we are going to unveil today. Yvonne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for asking me to come on. I love it.
So, Yvonne, tell us a little bit about Clean Eatz and how you and your husband started this journey over 13 years ago.
It's kind of a funny story how it all came to fruition with this. We came from a small town. I was like a population of 600 in Hillsboro, Illinois. And Don was a little bit bigger town, we call it, in Edwardsville. I got diagnosed with melanoma while I was in an x-ray career, married to my first husband with 2 daughters. And about 6 months later, I found lumps in my groin and they thought it had gone into lymphoma. And when someone gives you that prognosis that, hey, you might have 6 months, year to live, boy, do you start evaluating life pretty quickly. And I just realized that where I was, the people that I was around, I was spending more time with these people in my career than I was with my own family. And I just reevaluated my entire life. Some people thought I was crazy, that they thought I was having a midlife crisis because I got divorced. I quit my job and I became a restaurant owner. Crazy, right? And then I met Don, which, I mean, Don is like my soulmate. And I know that sounds so cliche, but he really is. And he was doing legs at the gym across from my restaurant and came over. I always say I cook the best broccoli, chicken, and rice because he never left after that. But it's kind of like, you get a traumatic life story or a life thing thrown at you and you pivot. And this is where I pivoted.
Wow, that is just so powerful. And yes, those are major life events all happening in succession. How did you take that time to evaluate those next steps before you just made those decisions?
Yeah, I know you want to hear like this whole answer, but I honestly jumped out of the plane and about 3/4 of the way down, I don't know if I ever got the parachute or not. I probably crashed. But I am just not that person where I sit there and ponder. When I decide to do something, it's usually, and I get in trouble for that a lot, especially in franchising, because everyone wants that thought out process. Like, I hate things that take 8 months to make a decision on. I'm like, let's do it, trial and error. If it doesn't work, then okay, why does it work? So
I love that.
I leap a lot.
I think you have to. Yeah, like that really strikes a chord with me. You can overanalyze a decision and get into vapor lock where nothing changes and you just keep looking at the pros list and the cons list. I remember reading a study that I'll mangle it, but the bottom line was, if you are stuck with a decision between sticking with the status quo and making a big change, and in your mind, you're kind of equal between those 2 things, then you should make the big change. Because, the natural human response is to stick with the status quo. So if in your mind you're 50-50, in reality, that you're probably actually really leaning towards the big change. But because we like certainty and we like routine and we like habit, we stick with the status quo and we don't make that leap. And I'd love to hear you making the leap. The other thing I would just like to underline is you said, let's pay attention. If it's not the right thing, we'll pivot.
Yeah.
Isn't that like that's genius, right? Because we feel like I'm going to make this commitment and then the die is cast and I can't go back. No, you can always go back. No decisions forever.
I love the people who give you like a plan, right? They're like, here's the whole spreadsheet of everything. And I'm like, have you ever worked in a restaurant before? You know, no. I'm like, how do you know? Okay, it's kind of like the health department coming in and they're like, this is where we think your equipment should be. I'm like, so when did you ever work a line rush or and they're like, well, we haven't. I'm like, how do you know? Because this is how it looks good on paper. You never know how things are going to turn out. Like, go with the flow and pivot when you need to pivot. And it's gotten me this far in life. And
Well, this far in life, let's be real and let's explain a little bit more about what Clean Eats is. So I first had the pleasure of tasting your food at one of our Toastmasters event. I met Yvonne through our Toastmasters club and it is delicious. And Yvonne, I'd love for you to share a little bit about the concept of Clean Eats and how this came to be, because you are now in 23 states with over 120 locations and looking to expand into 5 more states or 5 more locations is what I read, right?
I know, crazy, right? Like
Yeah.
farm gym rat, no business education. How did I get here, right? Let me take you back because when I was married to my first husband and working as an X-ray tech, I honestly, my parents always I call it the white picket fence theory. And I know you've kind of heard me talk about it in the Toastmasters, but you graduate high school, you get married, you have kids, you call it career, all of that. And it never felt right. I did all the things, but it didn't feel right. I never wanted to be an X-ray. I wanted to be in physical therapy, but my parents couldn't afford college. And it was a 5-year master's program at that time. X-ray was 2 years. My mom's like, hey, your cousin, she's an X-ray tech. She makes a good living. I think this is what you should do. And that's how I picked a career, was through my parents and the
Mhm.
financial grip of it. So fitness was always in my blood, right? And while I was as a X-ray tech in my small town, I joined a kickboxing instruction class, and yeah, it just felt good. The instructor, she got pregnant. She was going on maternity leave. She's like, Yvonne, this is your passion. Can you teach my class while I'm gone? And I'm like, I would be honored. As I'm teaching the class one day, class ends. There's a group of women in the back and they are chit chatting. And they're like, man, I come in here, I do all of this. I'm not losing any weight. And I was like, oh, okay. I love to solve problems. So I asked them, I said, okay, I overheard your conversation. Why are you not losing weight? Well, in our small town, we had a McDonald's and we had a Hardee's. And when they got done working out at kickboxing, they went through one of them. I was like, all
Mhm.
right, this isn't nothing new. You can't out exercise a bad diet. I had just started meal prepping for myself at that time. And I was like, what if for 6 weeks I make your food? I give it to you. You eat it. You come here, you take the classes, and let's see what happens. Well, lo and behold, they all lost weight. So when I got the melanoma, got divorced, did this whole thing, my mom was devastated. She's like, you just threw away everything. And I was like, I don't think so. She's like, what are you going to do? Well, out of nowhere, I'm like, I think I'm going to open a meal plan company. And she was like, what? We're in the Midwest. They fried everything. Like, there was no grilled chicken option anywhere, right? She's like, there's just no way. And I was like, no, I really do think I'm going to make meals for people and serve them. And so that's what I did. And where I met Don was in this little town. I started this little cafe called Low Cal Cafe to begin with. And it was across from the gym. I knew that these were my people. Like we didn't have marketing. We, we didn't even have email back then. Like we had the dial up AOL, And Facebook was just coming around. So your marketing was boots to the ground, talking to people. Go figure. And so that's what happened. Well, then I got a second melanoma. And my mom at this point, she's like, hey, you speak to the universe. I always say the universe sends you signs. You just got to be open to listening to them and read them. And I was like, I want to live on the beach. Went to the Arnold show in Columbus, Ohio, met my idol in the fitness industry, Jen Hendershot. She's like, I had locale on my shirt. She's like, where are you from? And I'm like, from, close to St. Louis, Missouri. And she's like, I said, but we're getting ready to move to Florida. She's like, Florida? I'm like, yeah, I want to be near the beach, sand, sun. She's like, no. She's like, you need to go to Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm like, Wilmington, North Carolina? It has an ocean? What? I was like, okay. So we Googled it. At this time, it was Craigslist, found our location in Wilmington, North Carolina, drove 22 hours one way to this address, pulled up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it.
Wow.
And we stood on Johnny Mercer's Pier. I'm like, I want to live here. Drove 22 hours back, made an offer to the people, paid full price, didn't negotiate, nothing. Paid full price, drove 22 hours back, told our family that we were going to move to Wilmington, North Carolina. So that was in November. It took us November of 2012. Yeah, 2012. It took us November, December to open up the restaurant. We opened up January 26th of 2013. It was crazy.
Within 2 months, you opened the restaurant?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a plug and play. We were broke. So we had to use everything that this restaurant came with. We didn't even paint the walls. The walls, everyone was like, oh, how'd you pick your logo? I'm like, these were the original from that location because we were so broke that we couldn't afford paint and their walls were red, orange, and green.
I did not know that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
That was how we got the logo colors. It was not anything scientific. We did not do any studies, did not know anything. We just did it because that was what the place came with. And we couldn't afford we had to get our doors open to start doing. So we did what every marketing agency should do. We went and joined 5 gyms. I joined yoga, CrossFit, Golds, there was another one. I joined all, and all I did was go and worked out all day and just passed out menus and talked to them. We opened our doors January 26th. We had a line wrapped around the building
Wow.
from that. Now back home, we barely paid the light bill because no one was coming in there, right? And to see, we didn't even hire employees when we opened Clean Eatz.
You were doing it all yourself?
My husband was the cashier and I was the cook. We got through that 8-hour day. I never hurt so bad in my feet were throbbing. And I looked at my husband and I was like, this was a fluke, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, there's just no way. I'm like, okay. So we went home and came back the next day, another line around the building. And I was like, we have to hire some people because we cannot keep this pace going. I bet those ticket times back then, they had to be 35, 40, 50 minutes. These people were coming in. I was the only one cooking. It was crazy. And so when we decided to franchise, the group that was franchising us, they're like, don't worry about it. Franchising is so slow. We didn't have any operation procedures. We didn't have it. I mean, we didn't even know what franchising was. I bought the book. It said Franchise for Dummies 101. And that's said that we were going to franchise. We sold 6 franchises in 30 days. It was our customers, the customers who had been coming through our doors the last 18 months believed in this concept. And they're like, we believe in you and Don. We had, grown trust with our customers. I mean, because we loved what we did. And it was like the Cheers of bodybuilding in our places. You would just everything. There are some stories I can tell you, but that's how we grew. We sold 6 franchises. We had to pause for a minute because again, if you just remember, we didn't have any operations. I seriously was writing our recipes on notebook paper, screenshotting them and texting them to these owners of how to make these recipes.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank God they were friends because we would have been sued so fast.
Tell me more, like, so this is such an amazing origin story. This is like, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak in the garage coming up with the early computers. I just love this. What's the secret sauce? What kinds of things are on the menu? Like, why are people lining up? Obviously, it must taste great. But what's the why?
The why was because we wanted to impact every lifestyle. I know that sounds so vague, but if there's a new diet, GLP, right? GLP is hot
Mhm.
this year.
Yes.
We got it.
I
Like,
saw that on your website. Like,
uh,
tell us more about this.
so it was just, there is no secret sauce in anything, right? It is the
Mhm.
same things. It's just how they manipulate, it's how they sell. The diet industry is billions upon billions of dollars, right? And they can't keep selling you the same plan over and over. So they got to come up with something new, something exciting. And we all know that it's the same formula. It's a calorie deficit, it's exercise, it's being consistent, but we don't want to do that, right? Because that takes discipline, that takes
Yeah.
motivation, that takes all the things that does not fit in our busy lifestyles. We want the secret pill to swallow and it takes effect, which GLP is what it kind of, I guess, is like the magic pill right now, which we're going to see effects from this. We always do. But the whole concept of Clean Eatz was to make healthy affordability and convenience. And to do that, you have to be able to pivot. I think a lot of our competitors at the time, paleo was huge. Some of these people came up with like their entire concept was nothing but paleo. Well, how long are you going to stick with paleo, right?
Mhm.
Paleo turned into Whole Foods. Whole Foods turned, or I'm sorry, Whole 30. Whole 30 turned into Atkins. You turned into keto. I mean, so I think the reason what makes us, you said the why, is because everything on our menu is whole ingredients that we can just manipulate to whatever you come with me that you want. You want keto, you want low carb, you want extra protein, you want carnivore, you want GLP. It's just whole ingredients that we can manipulate around. Maybe only do a fourth a cup of rice, maybe do a full cup of rice, just
Mhm.
depends. And that's what makes us, we are so versatile and we never put ourselves in a box of this is the only thing that we're going to do, which a lot of our a lot of our competitors did.
I
I
cannot
love
wait to come and try it out. This sounds amazing to me. And you're speaking my language. I love it.
And what I really love is the transparency from calories and macros. A couple years ago, my son taught me, and then I furthered this, but my son taught me about macros. I didn't know this, but he was tracking. And that is just such a powerful way when you're looking at proteins in particular, right?
Correct.
And I can say that's a challenge to get enough protein in. And you have a before and after gym recommendation and all of these options. I'm like, this is the missing piece that it's easy and it is affordable.
It's not easy. Well, let me just say, like,
Easy
this
when
is
I'm not
the
cooking it.
biggest challenge. It's like, how do you fit it into your busy lifestyle? Like you were saying, Yvonne, um, most people out there are rushing into work. They're rushing home from work. They're feeding a family. If they're able to work in a workout every day, that's one more time constraint. And so we've kind of been raised in the U.S. culture, of these easy meals, right? It's all in a box. It's all over processed, and we don't really know what we're putting into our bodies. Clean Eat seems to like take responsibility for that and say, okay, be thoughtful about what you're putting in your body, and we're going to help you so you know what you're getting, right? Which is the genius of this. You talked about being a gym rat, and you also talked about working these incredibly heavy days. I've worked in the restaurant industry, and I know how overwhelming those days are. What does your typical day look like? Are you still able to hit the gym? How do you balance what goes on in your day? Uh-oh, I saw a little wince there.
Yeah. So it's not that I don't, I think my priorities have changed a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm 51 now. And it's not the same. I think the whole thing is that the reason why, kind of like with Clean Eats too and diets, is that we're all in different chapters of our life, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm not in the chapter anymore where I want to go and pick up 200 pounds and squat it. I'm looking at mobility. I'm looking at, and I don't wanna say, like, half my life is over, but I sometimes I feel, and I'm like, "Man, I don't wanna be in 4 walls in a gym anymore. I want
Yeah,
to do other things." I feel that, a forward moment or a forward movement is exercise. Whether
mhm,
that is me riding a horse these days, whether that's me, push mowing grass, it looks a little bit different than a gym 4 walls right now.
sure.
I still get everything in and, do it, and I still go down and lift weights and do cardio but you might see me outside walking in around my farm or around the loop or on the beach, because I want to be outside and I'm in 4 walls but majority of my life, I want to spend that outside. So my workouts look a little bit different now. It might be
Yeah.
in hay. I might be putting 100 bales of hay in my barn and that
Oh,
or
yeah.
pull weeds. Oh my gosh, my hamstrings hurt so bad the other day from pulling weeds.
Yeah. For those who haven't, put up hay, there is no workout like putting up a barn full of hay.
Or lugging some bags of horse and cattle feed, into
Yes.
in 97-degree heat. So,
Yes, indeed. Well,
Well, when we
go ahead, Jen.
think about the origins of farm life, right? They weren't hitting a gym. They were
yeah.
managing the farm and working the farm. So I love that, and I share that outside piece. I'm going to pivot to use Yvonne's word here a little bit. Yvonne, you shared within our Toastmasters group, our 7 a.m. Tuesday speaking group, a story that was a preview to your TEDx talk, which just came out. So excited for you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'd love for you to share more about that because I got to hear some very powerful um, thoughts that you shared about what shapes us, what we put in our backpack. Tell us about your TEDx experience and what went into that.
That was almost the hardest thing I've ever done. Besides, franchising was hard. I think the TEDx was even harder. And maybe it's just because I'm older, but the memorization was so much to walk on that stage. The preparation, right? And you have 12 minutes to get this entire story, solution, and everything out. And you had to be so precise with that. But I really do. It was called The Invisible Weight Our Kids Carry. And the whole gist of it is because I know both of you probably remember something that your parents said to you or someone, a friend, and that it stuck with you. And I think back to why I'm in Clean Eats and why the health thing picked. And it was one comment that my mom said. And again, she meant no harm by this. And I'm kind of a little leery of the TEDx coming out because she's going to hear it. And I haven't said anything to her yet. But um, again, she didn't mean anything, but man, my cousins, they were like size 2. They were so lean, beautiful, right? And I was in husky jeans because I was a little chunky at the moment. And my mom says in front of my cousin or in front of my aunt that my daughters will never be a size 2 or 4 or whatever I said in there. And it stuck with me forever. And so I think my entire life, I have always been trying to I guess, run those words of hers. And so I've always
Mhm.
been very cautious of my weight and all of that. And then go into a mom of 2 daughters. I think that I have changed my lifestyle. I'm doing all the right things. I'm eating the same thing, but man, I was not aware of the things I was saying in front of my daughters. And I just remember my one daughter, um, she like I said something. I didn't mean anything. I didn't mean anything by it, right? And she's like, "I'm just so you always shame me for eating," because she always ate like, donuts or something. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like we can't eat these." And she was like, "I just always feel so guilty for everything I do around you. I'm never enough." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And so just because we're all like, I was living a healthy lifestyle, it was being translated to them as a negative, right? And it really they both have struggled with body image and and self-confidence, which I still do. I know, like, you guys probably can look at me and I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm better now because now I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I am comfortable with myself. There once you get to, I think, a certain age, it's just like, whatever. But my first granddaughter was just born.
Oh, nice.
She'll be
Congratulations.
4 months old this Friday. I was sitting there and, there was a group around her, and what made my TEDx like, I was kinda I was still, like, in the edits part, and I was sitting there and I was listening, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, she's so chunky." She was 7 days old.
Wow.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, she hadn't even formed a memory yet. She didn't even have her head. She couldn't even hold her head up, and we were already doing it, and this is part of my thing, but think about that. That was how early it starts.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that, again, that's how comfortable we have came to comment on people's bodies.
Mhm.
And that stopped me that day. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it just gave me chills because I'm like,
Mhm.
this is generational. Wha
Yeah.
it's already generation, and we're already creating
Mhm.
it, and so, as soon as those words come out of you cannot ever take back words that come out of your mouth. No matter how hot and heated a conversation, just stop before you say something, because once it's out,
Yeah.
it never goes
Yeah.
away, and so before we even struggle with food, with going to the gym, the exercise, any of that, we already have a perception of what our bodies are because of commentaries from friends, our parents, sisters. How many times have you been compared to a sibling or to another kid?
Yeah.
It, all of those things we think are just words are comments that are being said, but someone is internalizing what you just said.
Yeah. So powerful. I just, I'm also the father of two lovely young women, and um, I remember hearing early on when our oldest daughter was still young in school, somebody said just kind of offhand, "Don't praise their their grades, their intellect. Praise their effort."
Yeah,
Because if someone says, "Boy, you are gritty, you really work hard," then that's the kind of thing that they can
you're full.
like, multiply on, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
otherwise, if you're like, "Oh, you got an A, you're so smart," then when you get a B, they feel bad.
Correct.
Right? And so you have to be thoughtful because the things that roll out of you ripple out in their lives for the rest of their lives, right? And we all have examples of that from our parents and the impact that we still live from the things that we heard growing up. It is so incredibly true. And I think there's also this beautiful symmetry to your story, Yvonne, about Clean Eats, right? Like you're doing something in the world
Mhm.
to change that, and now you're doing it sort of in the way we all engage with the world as well. I think that's beautiful.
So I am curious, how have you used your message to shape your daughter's lives? And how are you hoping this TEDx shapes others?
I think it's awareness.
Mhm.
I feel like from just being in the Toastmasters, I delivered the talk to several groups, my team here, a couple of groups of friends. And the message that I got back was that it became awareness of what they were saying, how they were comparing. And I think that's where it starts, right? It's just people being aware of the actions, the words. And is it going to change overnight? No. I found myself because she does have like these little rolls on her thighs, and I just want to like point them out. And I'm like, oh, I can't. And now we just say that she's healthy or she's strong. And there's other things that you can say, but we're just so, programmed to say chunky or look at those little rolls and man, it hurts. And it hurts if that got said to us. If someone called my thighs chunky, I'd be like, right now, I'd probably throat punch them in this age. You know, uh, it
Yeah.
hurt. Those words hurt. And you never know. Everyone always says, like, with my husband, why we get along so well is that he's black and white. It's either this way or it's that way. And I'm never that way. I'm kind of like the 50 shades of gray in between because I do think that there's always another side to the story. And when he wants to like go at like one of our owners, all I do is I call it I plant seeds. And I said, well, what if you think about like, he's like, I don't want you to plant no seeds on me today. He was like, no.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but what if it like, did you think about it this way? And then I just let him like sit on it. And he usually comes back the next morning. He's like, all right, I thought about what you said and you have a point. And I'm like, all right. But again, it's just awareness. And my girls, I hope that, I also think that kids are just born however they are. They have already been programmed as soon as they came out, right? Because I've raised them both the same way and they're complete opposites, right?
Mhm.
So explain that. And I do think that they're programmed, they have been assigned blueprints as soon as they were born in life, and that they are on their path of that. And no matter how you parent, no matter what you do, eh, they're going to do what they do, you know?
Mhm.
And all you can do is just kind of guide them and give them a couple of tidbits of information that they're going to throw away probably, but someday they're gonna remember that information that you gave, and hopefully it helps them somewhere along the way.
That's what
Right.
I was gonna say. That
Yeah.
that information is there. That good advice is there, and it will have its moment, and they will recall it. We may not be around when they recall that
Right.
good advice. All we can do is we can lay it out there, and they'll take it up when it's time for them to take it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really curious. You mentioned the preparing for the TEDx talk being among the hardest things you've done. What would you say has been the greatest challenge in your entrepreneurial journey and this growth?
I have a lot of challenges. Uh, I would say the biggest thing is my temper. That it's and I think the temper came from one that I didn't want to own mistakes. I always wanted to be perfect, and if you're gonna get into business, especially in a franchise, we have 120 opinions, right? The biggest thing that I did, I think, was take my emotions out of it and ran it like a business. You have to eat humble pie. I've ate lots of humble pie along, and I don't eat when some of you guys will say, "I can't believe that you act the way you do." And I'm like, "My ego was at the door long time ago." And I love being in a room where there's smarter people than me because I always want to learn, and there's always things to be learned. If you are the smartest person in the room, you probably need to go to the next room,
Amen to that.
right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Because we're never too old, we're never too smart to ever learn something else. Uh, I can throw you 1,000 ideas right now if you want them, and that does not work in a franchise system. And that's why I bought the farm. It was because the farm was my creative outlet, that I can go out there and I can do whatever I want. I can I can change my mind in every minute of the day if I want, because I don't affect no one's financial future out there but my own. Right. And you can't do that in a franchise world. And you really, as we gotten bigger, I I still operate on my gut a lot, but I go off my gut and then I prove it with data. And that's a big thing because my owners want to know why. Why are you doing this?
Hmm.
What's your decision making? And before I'd be like, oh, my gut said so. And they're like, okay, that decision just cost me $15,000. And I can't do that anymore. We're too big. We're too mature for that. And so, yeah, that's been a lot. Sorry, that was a
That's
lot. I
amazing.
can keep going.
No, that is
Gold.
amazing. That is amazing. And I know we have to watch the time, but I want to get this last one in at least. If you were going to take all of your experience and all of the things you've learned and the challenges you've faced and surmounted, what would be the piece of advice you would give to a young Yvonne or some of the college guys that I teach and coach? What piece of advice, what piece of wisdom would you leave us with?
I think it kind of goes back to what I said in the beginning is that the first step is the hardest. But man, the longer that you think about it, I think just jump into it. Now, I'm not saying like jump into $100,000 mistake, but you know, and I think that sometimes small things instead of being huge on takings is a big thing too, right? Sometimes, man, I got so many. So sorry, Hugo.
That's all right.
And
We love it.
I think comparison is another big one
Mm.
because you're already seeing someone's, 100th episode and you might be on 5, right? So you're already
Mhm.
comparing to someone else's journey before you've even started yours. You're seeing their edited, their final, take, and that's
Right.
not your story. And I think
Yeah.
that makes us, especially in the social media world where comparison is so big, that we're always seeing someone else's edited version versus the raw footage.
Yeah. I love the way
So,
you've put that. Yeah, that is great. That is really great.
well, I
Keep
have
in mind
one.
that you're seeing someone's final version and you're still creating your early iterations, your first drafts. Don't
Yeah.
compare yourself.
It is so true. And Yvonne, you have shared so many golden nuggets with us. I want to bring in briefly, you have your own podcast, Rebel Roots.
I do.
How did you start that?
Because of exactly kind of this exact same thing, because it podcast always is gonna get the biggest, the most successful on their podcast, right? And I always felt like, man, they seem so far away. How am I ever going to get there, right? And so what my podcast was about is that I wanted to bring out the rebel stories of the people that might not be on the huge podcasters but it's someone that everyone can relate to because they're like in their third chapter, they're in their fifth chapter. And it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like they're like someone that's in volume 5 of their novels, it's just everyone starts somewhere and there's so many amazing stories. And just because you might not be up there with Steve Jobs and all of those, you're still making a difference. And I wanted those
Yeah.
stories told.
I love that. And I will just say, Yvonne, I'm a big fan. I look up to you. I know you talked about being in the rooms. And, when I walk into the room and I hear you speak, I'm like, I'm in the right room because I know you're ahead of me. And I love that. So I am so excited for all that you are doing between Clean Eats and that growth, the TEDx talk, and the impact you can make that you are already making through what you're doing, and the way you're taking care of yourself and balancing that with the farm and knowing how to fill your soul. So thank you so much for taking the time with us today. I'm going to throw out here a couple rapid fire questions because
Oh,
I'm curious if that's okay. I'm
yeah.
doing something new, Hugo. All right. So I shared a story in Toastmasters one time about a horse experience I had. So my first question, Yvonne, donkeys or a horse?
Gosh, that's making me choose a favorite child at the farm. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say donkeys, miniature
Oh,
donkeys.
miniature donkeys. Okay. Why?
I think that they're so squeezable and they really are so loyal. And the horses are loyal too, but they're so massive that they're clunky. Where a donkey you can just lay on the ground and pick up and carry.
I love it. I love it.
Probably
What's a healthy
typical.
habit that you'll never stop?
What was it? A habit?
A
What?
healthy habit that you'll never stop.
I would say walking.
Mm,
People underrate walking. They think that if they're not running or moving fast, that they're not doing anything. But one foot in front of the other, 10,000 steps a day is harder than it's said on paper.
I love it. Love it. Awesome. Are you an early bird or night owl?
Early.
Hey. All right. That explains our 7 a.m. start, I assume. What is the most underrated leadership skill?
Listening.
Yes. 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 And what is
Interrupting. Sorry, I
interrupt?
interrupted you. Yes. As I interrupt you. But I hate people who interrupt, which I guess is part of listening. So
Powerful. So true. So true. I can work on the interrupting myself. What is your favorite Clean Eats meal?
I am so two-parted question. As far as meal plans, I love the cowboy shepherd's pie. And if I was coming into the cafe, I would definitely eat the turkey burnt in flatbread.
All right. So now we have some recommendations here. Yvonne, thank you again for joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you join us.
I love being here. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, and I am confident we will link all of your stuff in our
Yes.
podcast so that our listeners can find you out there. I can't wait to subscribe to Rebel Roots, and next time I'm in Wilmington, I will be going by Clean Eats. I can't wait to try it out.
I
Thank you.
love Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Ripple Effect Leadership Podcast. If this episode sparked an insight or reminded you of someone, please share it and help forward the ripple. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review so more leaders can find their way here. You can find us on LinkedIn at Jen Brown-Coach and at HF Rodriguez Jr. and more leadership content and coaching tools at journeyofgracecoaching.com. A quick heads up before you go. This podcast and all content shared by Ripple Effect Leadership is for informational and educational purposes only. The opinions and characterizations in this podcast are our own and do not necessarily represent the U.S. government. This podcast is not a substitute for mental health treatment or professional medical advice. If you are struggling, we encourage you to reach out to a licensed mental health provider or call the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You don't have to do this alone.